Hello and welcome to another episode of Inside the Track. Me and Pete are here to talk all things Tottenham Hotspur today, Pete. That is what we're going to be discussing. Getting busy now for Spurs. Daniel Levy pushing on with a few deals, one coming to completion, and then some other targets to move on to as well. Of course, the Harry Kane saga. We have to talk about it. We can't talk about Tottenham and not talk about Harry Kane. So we're going to talk about that. Who could replace him up front if he does go, which is looking a little bit more likely every day at this point, to be honest. But first and foremost, Pete, how are you? Getting busy now, isn't it?
Yeah, all good, Fraser. Thank you. Yeah, we're into August now, so we're into the final month of the window. So push comes to shove now for a lot of clubs to make decisions on players and the transfer targets that they've been tracking all summer as well. So expecting a busy end to the window. Lots of clubs still looking to do lots of business, and not just in Saudi Arabia, but also in the Premier League. And I think Tottenham could be one of the busier clubs.
Yeah, and it's been one of those weird windows because it's been dead slow. And I think that's because there was so much happening with players going to Saudi and clubs trying to get rid of a lot of players. And I think the August is going to be really, really busy, Pete. I think it's going to start to get a bit mad now. So let's talk about a kind of done deal almost. We understand there's agreement in principle for Mickey van de Ven from Wolfsburg to Tottenham. Fee of around £38 million for the Dutch international defender. Was wanted by Liverpool as well. There was interest in him from Liverpool. They had early discussions with Wolfsburg, Pete, I understand. I don't believe it went any further than that at that point, though. But he's set to be moving to Tottenham. One of two we expect potentially to come in this position, an area Ange Postecoglou really wants to strengthen the centre-back. Van de Ven, good signing, Pete.
Yeah, it looks a good signing. Van de Ven, as you said, a very highly rated young centre-back. Done really well for Wolfsburg last season as well, breaking into the Netherlands setup now as well. But yeah, very fast defender as well. I think that's one of the key strengths that he's got. So it'll be interesting to see how he can cope with the demands of the Premier League as well. But at 21, loads of room for potential, and it's a big money signing for Tottenham, as you said, over £35 million for Van de Ven. So it's a big outlay from Tottenham as well. They see him as being a mainstay in their defence for years to come as well, right now as well. And as you mentioned, Fraser, Ange Postecoglou has publicly admitted centre-back is one of the key areas of the team that he wants to strengthen before the window closes. So it looks like he's getting one of the two centre-backs that he wanted now in Van de Ven. So probably after this one, attention will switch to Bayer Leverkusen defender Edmund Tapsoba. So he's the other main target as well, who could be a bit more pricier than Van de Ven as well. So that one's got a bit of work to do as well. But getting Van de Ven in will be a big signing for Tottenham.
People are telling me that Tapsoba could be done around 45 million, Pete. I think that's the kind of ballpark Leverkusen are looking for. That's pounds, £45 million, that is. That's the kind of Leverkusen, the ballpark Leverkusen are looking for. A bit more of a kind of experienced player, though, Tapsoba, because he has had European experience. He's been wanted by the likes of Barcelona and co as well in the past. This isn't a player who has just burst onto the scene either. He's been around for a while, Pete. And with Sanchez on the out, you've got and definitely frailties in that defence. Anyone who watched, I'm Scottish, so I watch Scottish football, probably more than Pete, maybe, I don't know, but I won't judge him, but I think I do. And the way that Postecoglou plays that kind of six and the two centre-backs are so key for moving the ball. He needs players that can play football, basically, as centre-back. And that's why Romero's maybe stayed and the likes of Sanchez and co are on their way out, Pete.
Yeah, as you said, Ange Postecoglou was very clear on what he wanted to do with Celtic. He wanted his players to bring the ball out of defence and to start the attacks and transitions as well. So he wants to accomplish defenders who can do that. He's got Van de Ven coming in, as you said. Tapsoba as well could be somebody who could fit that role as well. He's got lots of experience from playing in the Bundesliga, playing at a high level with Bayer Leverkusen as well. So again, another good young player who could come into that Tottenham side as well alongside Romero. So that might be three of your centre-backs next season for Tottenham as well. Also looking at Ashley Phillips from Blackburn, but he's probably one for the future, a young England youth international as well. I'd expect that deal to get done pretty soon as well, but he'll probably go maybe into the under-23s or maybe be on the bench for Tottenham as well. So yeah, as you said, players probably on the way out from Tottenham. Davinson Sanchez seems surplus to requirements, and Joe Rodon also seems like he could be finding it hard to break into that Tottenham squad next season as well. He could possibly be on the move as well. So centre-backs has been an area they needed to strengthen. Clement Longley, who had a spell on loan last season from Barcelona, he returned to Barcelona. There was lots of talk that Tottenham were trying to make the deal permanent, but it seems now that the focus has switched to Van de Ven and Tapsoba, and maybe Longley could be on his way to Saudi Arabia like a lot of other players. But yeah, I think Spurs be keen to get this business done as soon as possible with the Premier League start just around the corner as well. And let's see what it means for Harry Kane's situation as well. Does that mean Harry Kane is on his way? Are they using some of the budget from Kane's departure now to make these two big signings in central defence.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of a help. Well, obviously, if you get £100 million in or thereabouts for Harry Kane, that's going to help your coffers, isn't it? But obviously, Postecoglou took the job knowing he had a budget of some sort to spend, Pete. He wouldn't have come in there without spending. He's always been a manager who's come in and bought, always, wherever he's gone, he's come in and bought new players in. I'd like to talk about that midfield area as well, because there's a number of players who could leave there. Let's talk about Giovanni Lo Celso, Pete. Obviously, a player that's well known by Unai Emery and Aston Villa, a player that he really likes. That could be something to watch out for towards the end of the window, because there are now information coming through that Lo Celso would be welcomed by Unai Emery at Villa Park.
Yeah, again, Lo Celso really failed to live up to the hype, probably at Tottenham as well. Spent the last couple of seasons out on loan, but on his day, he's a top player. He's in that Argentina squad as well, so you've got to be a good player to be in that squad. In my opinion, as you said, Unai Emery is a big admirer of Lo Celso, having worked with him at Villarreal. Also talk about Barcelona being interested in Lo Celso as well, as Xavi wants to add a bit more creativity to his side in that final third as well. And now with Dembele on his way to PSG, maybe they might see Lo Celso as a cheap alternative, maybe to fill the void in that final attacking third as well. Totally different player from Dembele, but again, I think Lo Celso on his day can be a top player as well. So I think if Tottenham can sell him and bring in a bit of money, it will allow Ange Postecoglou maybe to make further signings in that midfield as well. As you said, Lo Celso is probably not only going to be the only midfield player to leave. I would maybe expect Tanguy and Ndombele possibly to leave. There's been interest from Turkey in him as well. Obviously, he was a major signing for Tottenham a few years ago, but again, just hasn't worked out for Ndombele. But he definitely showed his worth last season on loan at Napoli. He was outstanding for them, helping them win Serie A as well. And still lots of suggestions that Pierre-Emile Højbjerg could be leaving Tottenham this summer as well, with Atletico Madrid confirmed admirers of the Danish international as well. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch between now and the end of the window as well.
Yeah, Højbjerg's a player that was immediately brought up when Ange Postecoglou was appointed, because he doesn't quite fit a system for Postecoglou. I think you're looking at the likes of Bissouma coming back. That'll be like a new signing for the Spurs fans as well, him being back in the fold. Then obviously you've talked about Ndombele, who was so good for Napoli, Pete. He was absolutely brilliant, and then has shown glimpses in pre-season of what he can be. Perhaps Postecoglou is the man to get the best out of him. Contract to 2025, though, Pete, he's on a big wage as well, so that could be one that they're happy to see go. James Maddison obviously come in, Pete, as well, expecting a lot from him. He's a player that's been waiting for a big move. We felt like for a couple of years. Newcastle were really keen on him in January, and my information was he would be a main target for the summer, but obviously they moved on to the likes of Sandro Tonali and others and ended up not doing a deal for Maddison. How good a coup is that for Spurs, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a huge coup for Tottenham to get Maddison. As you said, there was interest from Newcastle and other clubs in the midfielder following Leicester's relegation from the Premier League as well. He will definitely add some guile and creativity to that Tottenham team, which they really missed last season. Obviously, Harry Kane had to drop back into the midfield a lot of the times last season to start attacks and create opportunities for the other forwards in the team. I think Maddison can do that role if he plays as a number 10 or as a top of the midfield. I think if he gets the ball in the right areas, he will definitely score goals, and he will create a lot of goals for Tottenham as well, and also great on set pieces as well. So he will definitely add another dimension to that Tottenham midfield and also to the Tottenham attack. So I think for £40 million, it's a great signing. They're going to get Maddison at his peak of his career now. His best years are ahead of him. So he showed at Leicester what a top player he is, and I think he can go and reach new heights at Tottenham as well with even better players around him.
I think let's talk about a couple of potential incomes. We know Tottenham like Conor Gallagher, Pete. We know that it's a player that Ange Postecoglou really admires, a player that fits into the Postecoglou way of playing so well. If you had to have an archetype Postecoglou player, Conor Gallagher was probably it. Problem for them is Pochettino, has said that he likes him, he wants to keep him. Gallagher are happy at Chelsea, but I think this is something you could potentially see move, especially if Chelsea do land Caicedo and one other, which we're still expecting in the next couple of weeks. Conor Gallagher, difficult to move out, Pete, but someone that Spurs really like.
Yeah, again, another top player, Conor Gallagher. He showed that during that loan spell at Crystal Palace a couple of seasons ago. The player himself says he wants to stay and fight for his place at Chelsea this season under Mauricio Pochettino, and Pochettino, I'm sure, will give him that chance in the early weeks of the new season as well. But if he does find himself down the pecking order, I think the decision might have to be made by Conor Gallagher this summer that it's time to move on, and Tottenham will be right at the head of the queue to sign the midfielder. As you said, he's a perfect profile for Ange Postecoglou and what he wants to bring to this Tottenham side as well, with his energy and his industry as well, and also he can pop up with a goal or two as well, as he showed during his time with Crystal Palace. So for Gallagher as well, it's a big year ahead. He wants to become a mainstay in that England squad as well, so he needs to be playing regularly, and I'm sure Tottenham will be ready to try and test Chelsea's resolve to hold on to them, while also possibly interest from West Ham and Conor Gallagher as well. So it won't be a straightforward race for Tottenham if Gallagher does become available. But yeah, I think he'll be a top signing for Tottenham if they could get him, and they can put him in that midfield alongside James Maddison.
Yeah, with the people who follow me on Twitter, follow Pete on Twitter, would have seen our reports from the Gallagher West Ham stuff. And my understanding was it was Chelsea saying not right now rather than no. In other words, listen, we need to see where we lie in a couple of weeks, before we have that discussion. So that could be one that happens in the coming weeks. Right, Pete, we're moving up to up front, and there's only one discussion now left, isn't there? And it is, of course, Harry Kane. We have to talk about it. Who could come in and replace Harry Kane? Who are the striker options that could potentially be on the radar? Moving closer and closer. So let's just do a quick recap. Pete, Daniel Levy was meant to meet with Bayern Munich last week on the Friday. He cancelled at the last minute. It's a very kind of Levy tactic. It reminds me of when Modric went to Real Madrid, Pete. He did cancel a meeting right at the last minute before that deal was done. It's almost like the kind of last kind of throw of the dice almost. I don't know. And then Bayern, of course, are now having more discussions with them, ready to go to that kind of €100 million mark. Sits around the kind of 89, 90 million pounds. Still shy, but add a couple of add-ons. And Bayern are absolutely adamant that Kane wants to move as well, Pete. So it's looking more and more likely as time goes by that Harry Kane's going to go to Germany.
Yeah, it's probably the closest we've ever come to really Harry Kane leaving Tottenham. Well, there's obviously been opportunities in the past. Manchester City last summer, Manchester United have also tried to sign Harry Kane as well, but this one does seem like it really could happen, and that Harry Kane could end his long tenure at Tottenham by making that move to Germany. Thomas Tuchel has made him his number one target as he looks to bring in a marquee number 9 this summer to the German champions. Talks are ongoing. It's all down to the price tag right now, it seems, with Spurs holding out for as close to that £100 million mark as they can, while Bayern hoping to maybe get him for around 85 million plus add-on. So it's a bit of brinkmanship right now, a bit of gamesmanship between Bayern and Tottenham, and it all depends on who blinks first, really, in this one. The key here is that Harry Kane seems to be up for this move. He seems ready to leave Tottenham to make that move to Bayern, try and win trophies with Bayern Munich, as they see him as a key man for their Champions League bid next season as well. So yeah, the more and more closer it gets, it just looks like this deal will happen. Seems more likely than not, even though there has been suggestions that if it's not done before Tottenham kick off their Premier League campaign against Brentford next weekend, that he could end up staying. I still think this deal will get done, and Harry Kane will end up a Bayern Munich player before the close of the window.
Yeah, I think it's more and more likely now, Pete, as well. And then that means Tottenham, of course, will have to replace a man that scores 30 plus goals a season. Very difficult to do. My understanding is that Postecoglou was keen on a second striker anyway. I mean, he's always had two good options in every club. And I think Gift Orban's a name that's coming up a lot, Pete, as well. The player in Genk, isn't it? So an interesting signing at KA Genk at the Bundesliga, in the Jupiler Pro League in Belgium. Only 21, I believe, years old, if I'm not mistaken, and obviously contracted until 2027. So that's an option. But I think he might have come in if Kane was there or not, Pete, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be ready to lead the line for Tottenham alone right now, or to replace Harry Kane. So maybe, as you said, he's a secondary target who maybe would have come in to Tottenham even if Kane had stayed. I think he's somebody who's got huge potential. He showed that with Ghent last year, played against West Ham in the Europa Conference League as well, but scored a lot of goals in Europe and also in the Belgian Jupiler League, as you said, Fraser. So he's a talented player, but I don't think he's probably the right man just right now to fill the shoes of Harry Kane. So they're probably looking for somebody a bit more established to come in and maybe get that 20, 25 goals for Tottenham in the Premier League next season as well. They are also supposedly in talks with the Argentine striker Alejo Velez from Rosario Central. Again, another young one, only 21. Talks are ongoing between Tottenham and Rosario to see if they can get a deal done for the Argentina under-20 international, who impressed at the recent under-20 World Cup, I think with 3 goals in 4 games. But he's another one that Tottenham are looking at. Again, I think he's one for the future, not one for right now as well. But yeah, Tottenham are looking at that younger model now and bringing in a couple of strikers who they feel they can develop. But I still think for next season, if Kane does go, they're going to have to bring in somebody who can lead the line.
For sure, they can't go into it without a striker. I think maybe a couple of names to watch here. Ivan Toney, obviously, it's difficult with Toney with the fact that he's got his ban to serve, Pete. But in January, we know a number of clubs like him. We know Spurs have liked him, Chelsea have liked him, a number of clubs have looked at Toney. And perhaps when January rolls around, that's something that could happen for him as well. I'd also look out for Lautaro Martinez at Inter Milan, despite the fact he came out in a recent press conference and said, I love it here, and I'm happy to be at Inter Milan, etc. I mean, he's not going to come out in a press conference, Pete, and say, I hate it here and I can't wait to leave, is he? So people will sometimes read into that a lot. And how many players have said, I mean, I'll quote Steven Gerrard at Rangers, I'm settled, I'm happy. And he was off to Aston Villa within a week. So, you have to watch these things. But he's a player I know that Tottenham have had their eye on before, would be around that €70 million mark. 70 million pound mark, excuse me. And would be keen to move to the Premier League, is my understanding, So he's a player that would have a lot more, kudos about him, Pete, to come in and replace Kane.
Yeah, more marquee striker than the other potential younger ones. Got great experience with Inter and also with Argentina as well. A World Cup winner, also played at the highest level in the Champions League, helping Inter reach the final last year as well. So yeah, he would tick a lot of boxes for Tottenham if they are looking at prolific goal scorer to try and replace Harry Kane as well. And as you said, Fraser, he is somebody who is interested in a move to the Premier League. Also, Chelsea have shown a bit of interest in Lautaro Martinez as well, if they do end up selling Romelu Lukaku this summer as well. So yeah, I think he'd be a great signing. He's got all the attributes to be a success in the Premier League as well. So I'm sure Inter Milan don't really want to lose him either. So it'll take a big fee from Tottenham or Chelsea or whoever's interested in Martinez to try and convince them to sell the Argentine this summer.
Yeah, especially since they lost out on Romelu Lukaku, who's edging towards a move to Juventus as well. Well, Spurs fans, it looks like the defence is finally getting sorted. Mickey van de Ven on his way, agreement in principle between both clubs for that. So that's all about to be done. Tapsoba set to follow. What happens in the midfield? Do you get someone else coming in there? A number of names we've spoken about. And then, of course, Harry Kane. Won't talk anymore about it, Spurs fans. I know you're probably sick of us talking about it, so I won't talk anymore. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. You can follow Pete on Twitter. His link's in the description. Same for myself and all the Football Insider things. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheerio.